Let's get into the beginning of the end of Demon Slayer, because taking place after the Hashira training arc, we come into the Infinity Castle arc. And just as expected, the Hashira training sessions were the calm before the storm, because Muzan successfully finds his way to Ubayashiki's room with the dying man expecting him. He can't walk or move much anymore, but he's still very aware of who's to come visit him. And, you see, for his poor orphan children, even the ones older than him, he shows only love and understanding. He never raises his voice or offers malice. You know why? Every single drop of negativity in his body is saved for Muzan, and now's his chance for revenge. He lets Muzan believe he's just a man on his deathbed, but when he's fully unguarded, Kaguya strikes like a snake. There's no risk too great to ensure Muzan's eradication, so he blows himself up along with his wife and 2 daughters to take the demon by surprise. Pierced with spikes and slower to regenerate, Tamayo joins in, offering a concoction of poisons to Muzan as he absorbs part of her body. Yushiro would have been there if she hadn't asked him to stay away. Afterwards, the explosion is when the children themselves rush the demon with every powerful strike they could summon. Wind, water, stone. It all aims to take him down. But Muzan's a coward, always has been, never wanting to let go of life no matter what it takes. He gets the Biwa demon, Nakame, to open up the doorway, dropping every active slayer into the Infinity Castle. As expected, they're separated and weakened because of that. If everyone could fight together against the Upper Moons, leaving Muzan for last, there'd be a whole lot less casualties. Instead, we get groups of 2 or 3, rushing around the ever-changing space. If you're wondering, yes, Inosuke thought it was super fun and enjoyed falling into the new area. The first confrontation we get has been a long time coming. Shinobu finally getting to unleash the rage hidden within herself. That's right, she's against rank 2 demon Doma. And the only reason she finds him so quickly is because she could smell blood coming from a room. And as per usual, he's got young women's parts strewn around him like a buffet, feasting on the flesh of the beautiful. He's kind of like the demon that had 3 parts that Tanjiro came across, but worse because his skill is at a much higher level. Also, he openly parades around his food, dropping it on the ground when he's done, disrespectful to the core. Instantly, all Shinobu can see is her sister's dying face and the description she left of Doma. He gorges himself on blood, even now, and laughs and smiles as he greets a seething Shinobu. There's no denying this monster is the culprit. A victim nearby is still alive, begging for help from Shinobu. She uses her speed to quickly steal her away, and Doma compliments her agility in a backhanded way. As she tries to check on the girl, Doma's already sliced her, so he says Shinobu's fast, but he knew that he was faster still, and doesn't even blink when the girl falls into pieces. Shinobu's left beyond stunned, remembering that her sister mentions he uses fans as a weapon. Not the regular kind, but ones that cut and slice through flesh in an instant. It's probably easier to get a taste of blood from them too. Doma introduces himself as the founder of the Eternal Paradise Fate, as if demon slayers have any time to know about those types of organizations, especially ones that function more like a manipulative cult, rather than a safe place for people. Immediately, they don't see each other's side. Doma thinks that he's helped the girl by ending her pain and fear, and Shinobu sees him as a heartless killer. Just like a true cult leader, Doma monologues about how he saves his followers and eats them to keep them within himself. I think he drank too much of the Kool-Aid. Evidently, Shinobu can't hold back her anger that Tanjiro always smelled, feeling sick just from his rotten mind. He only makes it worse by trying to offer his ear and a fake smile. The rage bursts from Shinobu as she throws the truth at him. He killed her sister. He was dressed just like her after all. Finally clicks that he does remember Kanao. She used flower breathing, unlike Shinobu's insect one. Once again, he remains out of touch as he describes her beauty and the unfortunate fact that he couldn't finish eating her. Shinobu doesn't let him finish, stabbing him right in the eye with her sword. He doesn't dodge. Most demons wouldn't. They wouldn't expect there to be poison, right? Slayers, and especially Hashira, can usually decapitate demons to end them. On the other hand, Doma tried to stop it, but her thrust was too quick and precise, so he missed it. As she announces her attack as the Dance of the Bee Sting, he launches his own Demon Blood art. It's ice-related and called Frozen Lotus. In many ways, it describes him as a being. He's cold and unfeeling, pretending to be kind and lovely, and seems to appreciate beauty above all else, his own included. Too bad it's also extremely effective against Shinobu, freezing part of her arm instantly. It makes it hard for her to breathe as well, which is very bad considering breathing is the main part of demon slaying. Doma compliments her speed again, his eye starting to heal, but he also condescendingly reminds her that she has to slice off his head to kill him. Obviously, Shinobu's not able to do that, and lets him know about the poison. Considering the slice is still across his left eyeball, it has some kind of effect. Shinobu waits to see if her new recipe can affect the highest ranked demons or not. He thrashes around, not expecting it, even comparing it to a previous poison that she'd made. Doma coughs up blood, with Shinobu watching with bated breath. If this doesn't work, well, it won't be good. After his eye turns bloodshot and blood stops spilling from his mouth, Doma's regeneration kicks in. His body has successfully broken it down and is still openly enjoying himself. He asks about where she keeps the compound, and if it changes inside her sheath. He taunts her to try another version, so they can test it if it works or not. And though he's being disingenuous, Shinobu's going to keep trying. For that, it's time for a small detour into what made Doma the way he is. Early on in life, Doma was used as a savior for the cult that he was raised in. He considered himself kind and helpful to the members, and was considered special because of his unique looks. But let's be honest, actual figures of value didn't stand out because of their appearance, it was their actions that mattered. His parents were the ones who created the cult that even he didn't believe in. People were led to worship him, who had no idea what they were telling him. And the only reason he cried for their sob stories was because he didn't believe they'd make it to paradise. Nothing comes after life ends, according to him, but he still played along. Shinobu's struggle continues with a fifth compound not killing him yet. Worse though is that he's getting more tolerant of the mixes. But she's not going to give up, even as she struggles to breathe. She's been around his icy demon art for too long, and it's destroying the cells in her lungs. That doesn't stop her from planning her next attack, readying to inject a higher dose of toxins. Again, he praises her speed while recovering from the quick strikes, but she's fallen into the same trap as earlier. When she zipped in, he also sliced back. Shinobu ends up with slashes across her body, worsening the damage that she had. As she drips red, losing strength, he laughs at her for being too small to cut off his head. It reminds her of her sister, and how if she were taller, she could have been more useful. She imagines that avenging her sister would be impossible. But that's when she appears to her, stern and strong. Shinobu struggles with herself, weakening by the second. Kanao reminds her who she is, the insect Hashira, and how she promised to win no matter the cost. Doma walks towards her, intending to end the fight since she's suffering now, but Kanao bends down to meet her, offering encouragement as she cries. Small as she is, Shinobu stands tall. Doma's surprised to see it, wondering how she could as a human, especially since he cut vital spots. Whether he's playing the role of the kind leader or actually feels bad for Shinobu, the blood gurgling in her throat is awful to see. He intends to end her quickly. The smile that follows as he continues to insult her is nothing short of demonic. Shinobu ignores him, preparing to stab him in the neck. That's the best spot to make sure he gets the most poison. She rushes forward in uneven movements using 100-legged zigzag, so he can't anticipate where she'll go. Even with the power and speed of that, it's not enough, and he nearly cuts her apart. She dives in using her small stature to her advantage and aims too low for him to dodge. She pins him to the ceiling with a slam, driving her sword through him. In her final moment, Shinobu recalls how she thought life would be joyous forever. She had a beautiful family, but it ended up destroyed by a demon, leaving her and her sister. If Gyome hadn't arrived to save them, they too would have died. He inspired her to take up the sword and protect others' happiness as well, and to make sure her only family remained living. Though she couldn't decapitate demons and she could die at any moment, just killing one would be enough. It could save so many lives. The poison seeps into Doma's body as she keeps her sword planted in him. As she finally draws back, she recalls Tanjiro noticing her anger. It's always been bubbling beneath the surface, hidden behind a smile, not unlike Doma's. Everyone that mattered to Shinobu was killed by demons. And yet, this despicable monster is already healing again. He grins as they both fall back down to the floor. Before she can land, Doma wraps her in an embrace, crying at how much work she put in. He says she's admirable, but does he mean anything that comes out of his mouth? To make matters worse, he calls her stupid for even trying, seeing as she's weaker and less gifted than her sister was. But he's not done with her yet. She still has to become a part of him by being eaten. Shinobu, closer to death than before, tells him to go to hell. Just outside the door, Kanao has finally found her master. She shouts for her, seeing her slowly drawn inside Doma's body, but she makes a hand gesture at her, letting her know it's okay. Kanao still reeling from the sight, unable to move, but once Shinobu drops her sword, she reaches for her own with a shout. Moments before Shinobu disappears, Kanao leaps up with Crimson Hanagoromo to save her, but Doma's speed is nothing to scoff at, and he's gone. He continues his meal with a vexing grin, only Shinobu's hair and back still visible. The rage that overtakes Kanao is beyond what she ever displays. Doma noticed the hand gesture, but considers everything Shinobu tries pointless. With that said, he finishes her off by licking the butterfly hairpin she was wearing. Seeing that just shocks Kanao, pushing her to remember the ignorance of believing the ones she loves will always be around. There's no guarantee of a tomorrow, and losing her family is proof. While Shinobu was fighting for her life, so were Tanjiro and Gyu against Akaza. Doma takes a moment to acknowledge his fellow demon's loss, and he even noticed the shift in the parallel fight, but shrugs it off. In fact, he seems gleeful that Akaza's finally dead. With that out of his mind, he turns his focus to Kanao. He wants to know her name. Kanao pants, gripping her sword tightly, with a fierceness unlike her. Kanao tells him her name and her connection to the ones that he slaughtered. Doma doubts that she's related to them because of their meat, which is a disgusting thing to say. But being the superficial creature he is, he's fine with Kanao because she's young and pretty. That reminds him of Akaza's rule and why he lost, which isn't true, by the way. According to Doma, refusing to eat women made Akaza weaker. Why? Apparently, since women can create children, they are more nutritious and can help strengthen a demon quicker. Whether that's true or not doesn't matter. It's the careless way that he throws that out is what's important. Kanae is breathing hard, holding herself back from just ripping him apart while he shares his unwarranted thoughts. Even complaining about how Akaza was given special treatment since he wouldn't kill women either. This is followed by his best attempt at seeming compassionate and tearing up over the loss of Akaza. Who in their right mind wouldn't believe his crocodile tears when he was just laughing about his death? Anyway, Doma has the gall to say that Akaza was his best friend, while still crying, but Kanao's not blind. Her gaze is calm and cold as she tells him to stop lying. Watching him is enough for her to know that he's playing at having feelings. He has none. His expression hasn't changed at all, and there's no flush on his face from anger or sadness. Doma argues it's because he's a demon, but Kanao has seen plenty of demons and knows their color can change just like humans. She makes sure that he knows that her older sister Kanae felt sorry for him when she passed. She also could tell that he lacked any kind of emotion. Not a single one goes through his body, like how some sociopaths fake their reactions to appear normal. With a smile of her own, Kanao's starting to take charge of the situation. She points out that she's smart enough to fool people by pretending that he cares. Without holding back, she lets him know that he's nothing but an empty shell, never getting to enjoy the normal parts of life. She laughs and then offers him a sinister smile while asking why he was even born. Doma is definitely shook by this. His fave is devoid of the usual faux joy and prepares his fan, reflecting on how she's the most unkind girl that he's ever spoken to. His aura changes, but it doesn't stop her from continuing to provoke him. Now looking as emotionless as Doma is inside, Kanao tells him that she can't wait to send him to hell. But not just that, he's also not actually that smart and doesn't deserve to be alive. Even someone who can't feel sadness and joy will feel anger when pushed enough. And Doma aims for Kanao's neck with his fan, giving her a second to move out of the way before she's killed. With a clean weave, she slices his midsection, avoiding his counterattacks. Icy flowers follow her, but she moves away quick enough, leaving him with his guts hanging out. Despite his disdain for her, Doma has to admit that Kanao's better than the Hashira he just absorbed, if only a little. Interestingly, if not for the rage he's triggered in her, Kanao would be struggling more against the ice damage and cold Doma's producing. But the adrenaline from her anger is keeping her both warmed up and able to move despite the drop in temperature. She knows this is a fight like no other for her, and needs to keep her focus on him completely. But that's not hard when all she can think about is how much she hates him and wants to erase him. Kanao launches successive attacks, with Doma happily avoiding them and sending out an icy flurry of his own. Having special eyes, he notices the way Kanao uses her own and how important they are to her fighting style. Trying to cut them, she manages to dodge and parry at the same time, but the ice is filling her nose and lungs the closer she is. She steps back to protect her vision and body from the freezing blows. Doma won't let her stay away though. He creates two ice princesses that blow ice and cold air all over the room. And then Kanao has to step back again and then leap away from the icicles above her head. Her hands are starting to lose grip, but she doesn't realize until Doma steals her sword from her. He plants it at a distance to force her to come closer. Instead, she tries to watch the scattering lotuses, searching for a safe zone. As it gets closer and more deadly, Inosuke breaks through the wall and slashes them all away with crazy cutting. Talk about coming in clutch. Treating this like any other fight, Inosuke hopes that he can be a Hashira if he kills a demon this high ranked. I guess he hasn't realized this is the final war yet. What he does notice is how beat up Kanao is, wondering where Shinobu is. Kanao's defeated expression tells him that Shinobu's died, and his mood changes drastically. Already a hothead most of the time, Inosuke rushes in from unfiltered rage, but that just gets him accused of being sloppy and strange as a fighter. Doma at least appreciates how flexible he is, while dodging the ice and slashing with a purpose. Inosuke gets Kanao's sword back for her with ease. This time, she shouldn't let it go. Doma starts to see Inosuke's talent, but underestimates his sword technique. When Inosuke reaches to slash him too far for a normal person, he dislocates his joints to reach further and successfully slices Doma's eyes, even though he was aiming for his neck. When Doma gets Inosuke talking, he yanks the boar mask away and realizes Inosuke's face looks familiar after all. If it wasn't bad enough that he's taken Inosuke's mask, Doma insists they know each other and won't return it. While Inosuke thinks he's met Shinobu before, based on a feeling he wouldn't forget a disgusting guy like Doma. The demon digs into his brain with his fingers to find the memory and finds it. Inosuke's mother ran away from her husband with her child and landed up at his sketchy cult. Her husband and mother-in-law followed, but Doma killed them for being too annoying. Still, Inosuke refuses to believe that he has a mother, rushing in again. But once he's reminded of the Pinky Promise song she used to sing, it all comes flooding back. That's, sadly, when he finds out that she was killed because she learned the truth about Doma's peculiar eating habits and had to be silenced. As Doma says, Kotoha's life was miserable anyway, so eating her probably was a gift. He further inspires Inosuke to let loose. He's taken two cherished people from our boar head after all. But Doma continues pushing his beliefs about nothing awaiting after death. So there's no point to be good when you can just do whatever you want instead. Inosuke refuses to submit to that, ready to create a hell to avenge his mother if necessary. Doma thoroughly enjoys the fight, but doesn't think that they'll survive for long because of his demon art. When Kanao joins back in, the demon has to start being careful, since Akaza died already. Despite being overconfident, he knows Muzan will punish him if he loses. Doma makes an ice doll of himself to fight them, and it's nearly as strong as the real him. With that, he plans to leave while they're being occupied, so he can take care of other demon slayers. A thought hits him. He could just make more ice dolls, so they can do all the work and take out everyone who's left. Whether that's lazy or brilliant, you decide. Kanao and Inosuke struggle to catch him, but can't pass his copy. As soon as he's at the door, prepared to leave, his face starts to melt away, his eyeball hanging loose. Before, Kanao told Inosuke to be patient. And this is what she meant. Slow and steady wins the race. A flashback reveals that this was their plan all along for Shinobu to die, and Kanao to finish Doma off afterwards. Beforehand, Shinobu made sure Wisteria was coursing through her body by consuming it for weeks. The plan seems to be working, since Doma's folded in half, even his bones falling apart. The ice doll can't even continue to fight, and shatters. They rush for Doma's neck then, as he struggles to regenerate his collapsing body. In a desperate attempt, Doma unleashes a giant Bodhisattva ice statue to buy himself time to heal. It's difficult to avoid considering the gigantic size of it, and the frost it blows out. Kanao realizes it's a last-ditch effort, so it's time for her to unleash her own secret technique. Even if it makes her blind, she forces her eyes to their maximum efficiency, turning them red with blood from the pressure, seeing the weak point that she needs. Kanao almost cuts his neck, but frost covers her body. Meanwhile, though trapped in the statue's grasp, Inosuke throws his swords to help push hers through, and in a miraculous show of effort, Doma's head separates from his body at long last. Predictably, Doma's in disbelief, not because of his impending death, but because of Shinobu being the one to poison him. How could someone so small and weak end him? How indeed, you sadistic jerk? Still, Doma tries to keep himself alive, the way Akaza did before killing himself. But there's no chance this time. With death creeping in, he still feels nothing. Interestingly, Doma recalls how his dad slept with the followers of his cult, and his mother stabbed him to death, then took poison to end herself. Even then, Doma was only worried about the mess they left him. He became a demon at 20 and lived over 100 years, but emotions still evaded him. Was becoming a demon his attempt at gaining feelings? Shinobu confronts him in death, a cruel smile as she enjoys his passing. She admits that she's disappointed that she needed help from Tamayo to erase him fully, but oh well. Suddenly, Doma feels something for her, at her empowering words for her allies, and wonders if sentiment can exist for him. And if so, then so can heaven and hell, right? Back in reality, Inosuke stomps Doma's body until reality sets in that his mother died saving him, and she loved him dearly. Likewise, Kanao clings to the pin Shinobu wore, most of her vision in one eye gone from equinoctial vermilion eye. Although she couldn't cry for Kane when she passed, now she's different, and feels everything that she was forced to keep in from trauma. Her siblings were even killed accidentally when they'd be hit in the wrong spots. As she weeps, she feels her sisters comforting her and appreciative of her efforts. She's come so far, and surprisingly, she now has 2 butterfly pins instead of 1 now. From there, the sisters can at least rejoin their family in the afterlife and live in peace. The battle done, they drag themselves away, still mourning, with the crows announcing their victory over Doma. The duo only shows up again mid-battle against Muzan, with no indication of where they were between time. And that is the first part of the Infinity Castle arc. I will be covering the rest of this arc with all of the fights that follow, and so please subscribe for that if you're interested in future Demon Slayer content and covering the ending of the series. Also, like the video if you liked it, and have a great day. I'll see you in the next one.